And there we are. Let's see who shows up. Hi, you're early. Hello, everyone. I'm currently just setting up, getting everything all set up. Thank you all for showing up. Hey, all. Can you hear me? I mean, this is a lot better than the first time I did it. I'm gonna say that right now. So, just let me know if you can hear me. It's kind of like the pre-show warm-up. All right, awesome. Hello, music in the background. Can you guys hear that? Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. We can hear. How's everybody doing this afternoon? All right. Wow. Wow. Okay. I've got new let me try something here real quick. Okay, I'm gonna try something. So Jarhead became a YouTube member. Thank you, Jarhead. We appreciate you so much. The support is always appreciated, never required, and never expected. But I appreciate it more than you know. All right. Any day above ground is good. That's good, Eddie. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's say this. I don't even know how to say that. L Eddie boy? Okay. But I agree with you. Any day above ground is good. Let me see here. Awesome setup so far. Awesome. So we're gonna give it a few minutes. Okay, Dan, ring. Oh, actually, you know what? This is me getting used to this program, so just please bear with me. But Dan Ringman, always appreciated, never expected, and never required, but I appreciate it more than you know. So, how effective? Actually, hold on. Let me go here and we're gonna stop the music. We're gonna stop the music. Just stop the music. We got a real question here. So, how effective are buddy statements when it comes to missing in-service events for service connection? Now, I did do a video on this, but I'm going to just talk about it for just a second here. Just kind of in the introductory time period. But, I mean, it's the difference between having nothing and having something. Okay, so if you have a buddy statement that the buddy submits like some kind of like DD-214 or something to prove to the raider that they were there, right? That they could have seen the things that they say that they saw, or the things that they say that they observed, then that goes a long way to proving credibility within the actual buddy's statement, right? Because I don't know your buddy from anybody, right? It's like, hey, look, I was in the military. I have no way to proofread that. I have no way to validate that. So it's next to impossible to validate, especially if you go back in time. Now, if the buddy statement's relatively recent, then that provides a little bit more, you know, validity to their statement. But if it's like Vietnam and you served together, then your buddy has to show how they would, they have to prove that they were in Vietnam with you. So that's just kind of one of those. I It can help. I mean, especially in combat situations, we're supposed to take combat buddy statements a little bit more seriously. Mm. But That's me just answering a question. This is a session of rambling here, guys. So I just need you to know you have given me authorization to ramble. But all right, let me just go through here. It's going to turn into a Q and A real quick. Ray, thank you for your videos, real life application instead of all the BS. Thank you so much. I That's part of the reason why I created the channel is because I wanted to like give the real picture because I don't know, it would be like somebody that you do your job, right? And it would be like having somebody that's never done your job before explain your job but wrong every day on YouTube all day long. And that it kind of freaked me out to the point that I wanted to put out videos and wanted to help people. Um I already did a migraine video, Buddy Light. I already put out a migraine video. And migraines and headaches are technically interchangeable for the most part, as in if they're prostrating. So headaches can be separately rated than migraines if they're a symptom of something else. Like headaches can be associated with sinusitis, and if they're in that capacity, then they can be rated separately, and they'd be part of the sinusitis, rating decision for the symptoms for like let's say 50%. You know, um, But if they're prostrating headaches or prostrating migraines, those are synonyms for each other. So you can have prostrating headaches or migraines and get the exact same rating decision. But yeah, I did a video on this already. So you should go look at it if you haven't seen it. Um, Dan Ringman, thank you. I'm playing around with my new program. So if it's kind of weird, but it's kind of weird. So I can't wait to Alessa? I'm horrible with names, so if you want just straight comedy, just have me just say your names, and I will do it wrong 100% of the time. I can't wait to ask this question live once we get started. I just got my decision letter in the mail, and wow, just wow. Okay, well, I wait in bated breath to wait for your question. Um, Roy? Roy says, Raider HQ, I have to admit your inside information is valuable. Thank you. Actually, thank you for telling me that because my honest thing is, I thought nobody would appreciate the information because it's so different than what everyone else is putting out. And it just kind of weirds me out. And I will have to get used to how this system does these questions because I'm going to be a little bit delayed. Okay. So, VA ordered 3 medical opinions for one condition. Any idea why? Typically, it's probably certified barn door. Nice. It's typically because if you presented with a primary theory and that theory was denied, then what will happen is the there's two different ways here. So there's the VSR could have ordered all the potential theories up front and just front loaded your claim to be have all the medical opinions be reviewed, and that is best practice. Or your primary theory got burned, the examiner didn't agree with it, so the rater deferred it back, or the VSR gave you the rest of the potential theories that could have applied to your condition. So there's that. Um, let's see here. I'm scrolling down. What's here? Okay. I'm trying to look for just questions in here. So if you have a question, try to put question in the comments so that way I can kind of see what it is. All right. Brian, question. What if you think medical records have been altered, or can you receive a medical opinion from a pharmacist during a CMP examination? Um, I mean, if you think medical records have been altered, that would have to have context to it. So, what do you mean by that? Like, if you meant that the examiner altered the records, or the like at the time of treatment they altered the records, because typically you're unable to go back and rewrite history. So the only way that you can sometimes fight something like this is to get new evidence that shows a different medical opinion based upon the evidence of record. So if there was a finding of fact that concluded something that you don't agree with, then you would have to go back and say, and have a qualified clinician, hopefully to the same level or higher, actually, sorry, hold on. They would actually have to go back and just, retell and say, "Hey, look, this is the after a medical review, this is the more likely outcome or the more likely medical rationale for this." But thank you for the question, Brian. And is there still music? I've kind of I didn't want there to be music, so I turned off the music. Okay, so keep up the great work. Okay, Melissa, I have a 91-year-old veteran that the VA asked if he had a buddy letters he could submit. I mean, wow, that's pretty challenging, Melissa. I'm so sorry for that. I mean, sometimes those letters are canned, and when you get something like that, like if you like you I remember you're the VSO, but if you get it, or let's say like you as the veteran get something like that, that means that the raider is bending over backwards to try to give you anything. Like, please give me anything to try to latch on to try to grant this, because we are deep in denial territory. Okay, so that's kind of what that means when they do it. I know it seems ridiculous, but it's just the raider trying to give one last attempt, because you never know, right? Like maybe that is the 190-year-old veteran that they were able to keep in good ties and everyone's still alive. Who knows? But all right. Um, is there okay, Abel. Is there a chance I'll get a CMP exam even with a VA LCSW and psychiatrist diagnosis for PTSD, depression, and anxiety? So, okay. The LCSW is not a qualified clinician for VA purposes. So let me I'm part of this, guys, is so I'm gonna stop on this question right here because I want to show you guys something. So give me just a second here. I had a question about, could you show me, this was in one of the comments of the one of the videos, was could you show us how to use the M21 manual? And for this particular question right here, I'm going to use the manual. So, mental health qualified clinician. So what I typically do is whenever I'm searching for stuff in the manual is I will look. I don't have a lot of these memorized, so I will look and then I will do qualified clinician and then sufficiency. And then I control F and do mental health. All right. Mental health. All right. Qualified clinician. Okay. So here we go. Psychological examiner. So this is how I search, just to let you guys know. Like whenever I'm kind of looking for things, this is what I look for. So 413A1A. The following credentialed mental health professionals are qualified to perform a CMP examination. It is only a board certified psychiatrist or psychologist. That's it. So your LCSWs, uh, I mean, we'll take the symptoms that they do, but we will not take their diagnosis on its face. Now, the psychiatrist diagnosis we will take, um, but depending on what type of PTSD, there are requirements for PTSD to be diagnosed differently. Let me try to find that. No, it's not in there. So unless it's a fear-based PTSD, you will still have to get a CMP examined in some fashion for a medical opinion. I hope that answers that one, Abel. Okay, just found the headache. Roy, I have not done a TDIU video. It is in the works, but unfortunately, it's going to take a while to get there. Just because I have to lay a lot of foundation for the theories, and I have to lay a lot of foundation for uh, if I was to spring it on you, it would be very, very dry and it would be very, very confusing at times, just to explain it. So I want to do a few more videos and kind of work out how I want to get it sorted. So Kent, have a new CMP soon after higher level review and due to assist error evidence not listed and previous examiner did not review complete STR. How can I make sure the next one does? Okay. So, have you already had so Kent, the way that you would do that is in my higher level review, my informal conference, if that is what happened, I would personally ask. This is probably you've already probably had your informal conference, so you can't do this. But what I would ask is I would ask for the DRO to please specify down to the document ID the evidence that should be in the exam request. So that way, the VSR on the VA form 0999 to do is forced to put in all of the specified evidence, right? So that way they don't leave something off because that is a vulnerability of the higher level review process. Is that even if they find a duty to assist error, if the DRO doesn't actually tell, um, uh, if the drone doesn't actually tell the VSR what to put in there, then the VSR just randomly gets the claim and then they'll just do whatever it is that they want to do. They'll add in the evidence. So there's this disconnect that happens between the DRO's duty to assist error, what specifically they specify, and then how it's actualized. And that is a big vulnerability in the VA overall, is how, you know, the process is actualized comes down to the individual and their own personal way that they do things. But thank you for the question, Kent. Um, okay, I find this question to be actually humorous. I've actually had raters um, email me and say that they like the way that I was doing what I was doing. But I haven't had any other blowback. No. But my voice is very distinct in my community, so those that know would know me. Um, okay, I just want to take it. I just want to take a second here for my ego. Okay, Tyler, your channel has been the greatest thing to happen for veterans this year. Just the way you break things down and have explained things that most overlook. The example of case law versus M21 stuff. Thank you. Appreciate that. Um, and I already answered certified. Can I claim a few different theories for service connection? Okay. So part of this is a Q&A thing, but part of this is also I wanted to talk about like private DBQs, evidence. When you uh okay, but it became love. Okay. What can happen if you do that? See, I'm a firm believer in one single theory at a time. And the reason why I'm a firm believer in that is because you have to get the examiner to a 51% certainty, okay, that they believe that this one thing has caused your disability. Like whatever theory you're using, you have to get to a 51% degree of certainty. Okay. And the problem with submitting like three different theories um is actually that what can happen, you already reduce the examiner's ability to get to 51% if you say, well, it could be due to this, but it could also be due to this. And then the examiner has their own, well, it could be due to genetics or it could be due to age. You're just actually lowering your statistical odds the more things that you claim at one time. Like, I have had the most maddening claims where somebody goes, okay, I'm going to claim my mental health due to my left ankle, secondary to my left ankle, or my secondary to my right ankle, or secondary to my, rather than claiming chronic pain due to all of my service connected disabilities, they did this thing where they claimed everything individually. So there were like four different medical opinions in the records for each condition, and there was like 12 conditions. Now, You guys won't know what that means, but it was a nightmare to write that up. Like I was mentally drained and exhausted. And the last thing you want is a rater who is mentally drained and mentally exhausted. You want your rater to be crisp and on point. Okay. Because if let's say the examiner missed something and they worked like maybe they didn't answer all the questions, you want your rater to be able to, snap to and catch those things and not be drugged down by having to try to, somebody threw spaghetti at the wall and wanted to see what would stick. And then, we're sitting here going, okay, well, I have to account for everything that you threw against the wall. And I'm more concerned about catching everything that you threw against the wall versus whether or not it's all accurate. Okay. Cause they have to make their points. All right. Well, thank you for the question. Um, okay. So Dion, hey Raider, thoughts on requesting SMCK if you're 100% but service connected with ED? Um, if you are already service connected for ED and you do not have SMCK, I might do an increase on ED just because it won't do anything, it won't hurt anything, even if you're 100%. Because it's 0%. It can't go any lower than 0, so it can't hurt anything. But what it does is it creates a claim in which the rater has to go, "Okay, I have to adjudicate this either way. Oh, we forgot SMCK." So, yeah, I would do it like that, but I would do it exactly how, I said because they would have to go they would actually call a clear and unmistakable error and go back and look when and see when it should have been awarded originally, and that way you'll get it because it's what is known as a missed issue, and missed issues can be brought up at any time and rated independent of the effective date laws. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, Dion, thank you for the question. And then we've got Jeff. Jeff has become a new YouTube member. Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate it. Always appreciated, never expected, and never required. All right. So let me go here. Um, oh gosh. Okay. EJO. 1 out of 10 knees denied service connection with BDD, even though I had evidence from active duty paratrooper 4 years, right knee injury with deployed sick call slip MP duties put on. Okay. So the weird thing about BDD claims is that what happens during the SHAW exam, the separation health assessment exam, is that you have to actually, even if you had treatment in service, you have to actually have a disability at the time of the CMP exam. If you don't, or if the examiner says it's acute or transitory, like it will get better, then they can just say no and deny you for that. No matter what your historical presentation is, if you don't have a disability at the time of the CMP exam, they can do that. Now, technically, per the rules, if you had symptoms within a year from that examination, technically we should be able to grant you if you were given a diagnosis within a year prior to that exam, we should technically grant you. But that's going to come down to the rater and how subjective it is. Okay. Uh, every time I see Aaron, I think of that. Sorry, I apologize, Aaron. Um, if in your doctor's notes in the VA Medical Center it says Achilles tendonitis is related to plantar fasciitis due to the biomechanics, would the rater see that as a possible link depending on what the CMP person kind of says? I'm going to be honest with you. Here's what the rater would look at. They would say Achilles tendon equals ankle, plantar fasciitis equals foot. So they would see those as two different things. Now, as to whether or not they have a connection to each other, that is the entire domain of the examiner. This is not something that the rater can weigh in on and say, oh, I think that's connected to that. Not at all. Like, we can't do it. Okay. Okay. So you would have to have a secondary medical opinion that's in your favor from the actual CMP examiner because notes from a doctor typically won't satisfy the requirements for a medical opinion. It would be deemed insufficient. So, like, it wouldn't qualify because it wouldn't, have the at least likely as not section to it, but yeah. Okay. Oh my god, EJ, you had the 1 out of 10 was 10 questions? Okay. Um, wow. Okay, permanent profile that included knees. Okay. Wow. You know what, EJ? Send me an email. Okay, just it's probably better if you just send me an email on this one because I'm not going to be able to unpack this with um, bouncing back and forth between these. I apologize. Number one, I can't give you the attention that you would want to have, and it would be very hard for me to do that on the live stream. So, shoot me an email. It's on my main page there. Okay, so Baroness Cobra. Can you do a video on how to use obesity as an intermediate step? And I'm grateful for all the detailed information you put out. Yes. Now I have had a lot of I've had a lot of questions about obesity as an intermediate step, and I'm going to address that here. But I guess I can do a video on it. So the intermediate step for obesity is you just saying it actually requires two separate medical opinions that must be done. Now, VA examiners know that two separate medical opinions must be done, but your private providers, the people that are filling out your private DBQs, typically may not understand that two separate DBQs two separate medical opinions need to be done in order to satisfy the criteria of making the intermediate step link. So the first medical opinion is to say, hey, did my service connected condition cause the obesity? Now that has to be yes. There cannot be like I'm predisposed for that. Like any kind of doubt on that front, it'll make it to where if one of the two medical opinions are negative, then it can't be service connected. So it's technically like a harder theory, secondary theory to get because it does have two medical opinions. So the first one is, did my primary service connected condition cause my weight gain? And then the second one has to be, more likely than not, did my weight gain cause my, claimed condition? And everything has to be dress right, dress with that. You cannot have something in your evidence that says, hey, look, sleep apnea, I had a different medical opinion that said that my sleep apnea was due to, my nervous system or something like that. If that's the case, and you're doing like a private DBQ and you're doing like a private medical opinions, anytime that you have like a prior um, CMP examination that came to a different conclusion, your new evidence has to actually discuss that, provide some science behind why this new examiner's opinion is drastically more uh, valid than the other person's. And it can't just be, I'm a doctor, that was a nurse practitioner. It actually has to have some kind of something new added to it in order to discount the negative medical opinion so that way it can make room for the positive medical opinion. I don't know if that makes sense, guys. If anybody, I can kind of see the chat scrolling here, but if anybody can say that that makes sense. And I will be posting this live stream as a video, so you'll be able to come back here and you'll be able to find this, and I will put this up. Very important, so that way you can find it in the video, okay, whenever it comes out. So there is that. Um, Let me see here. I think I've lost my place, and oh, I've lost my place. It's done it now. All right, so Aaron. Okay, we got Wow, You Were Live. I appreciate it. Okay, yeah, it was Baron Cobra. Okay. Um, does a veteran's age affect consideration? No. No, it doesn't at all. It has no bearing. You could be 20 years old and get degenerative arthritis. It doesn't matter. Like age does not like there's no discrimination in terms of that, and we wouldn't let it because of things like this. Like, um, where is it? If there's conflicting evidence in the report, we would, like I would want to know, like, let me see here. Question is unanswered. A medical opinion is not properly supported by valid rationale and or by evidence of record. Age is not a valid rationale to disqualify someone from something. Okay. It can be a valid rationale for why you have something. Like if you have cataracts, like an age might be a requirement there, that or I should say, age might be an alternative etiology or cause for the cataracts, right? Like there's that. But when we're like, as a rater, if I'm looking at this, the medical opinion has to properly support a valid rationale for how they came to the conclusion they came to. So I hope this helps, Jesse. All right. And we got EJs again. Okay. Okay. Jazz Leo 12. Okay, fair enough. I have a board for sleep apnea. Did hearing already by video February, was waiting since 2021. Did strong nexus with hypertension, lumbar strain, migraines, chronic allergic rhinitis, MDD. What is possible? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Like, are you what's possible for being secondary to sleep apnea? Is that what you're saying? I'll try to get yeah, follow up with me, and if it's too hard to explain, just shoot me an email, okay? Jesleo. All right. And then okay. Teddy. Raider HQ. I had a higher level review and got a difference of opinion. Is that good? What does it mean? Okay. All right. So hold on. Let me banner time. Banner time. So and every time I do the banner, it takes me away from this. I hate this. Okay. Let me find Teddy again. I remember it's Teddy though. Um so is it a good thing or a bad thing? And I cannot find you, Teddy. I'm not going to use the banners anymore. This is a learning experience for me. So the banners have failed me. I got to scroll all the way up. There's a lot of questions, guys. Seems like you had a lot of questions. All right. So Teddy, difference of opinion if you were denied service connection, a difference of opinion by a DRO is a great thing because that means they're overturning the denial in order to give you another opportunity for an examination. However, if you were granted for something and they have a difference of opinion, that's not a good thing. That might be them saying, "Hey, look, I disagree with the effective date maybe, or I disagree with like what theory you used, but typically if you're granted for something and you did a higher level review for whatever reason and they did a difference of opinion and you were granted for the condition, that's not necessarily a good thing ever. But if you were denied, it can be a great thing because you're getting new exams. The DRO disagreed with the interpretation of the rater. And yes, green light, 3.5K of veterans like the channel in a month. I've only been doing this for a month, so I'm astounded by this number. It boggles my mind. Um, let me keep going down here. I'm looking for questions. I'll get better at this, guys. I promise. Phoenix Lights Raider veterans have longed for this kind of education and transparency. We appreciate you. Well, I appreciate you guys, right? Like, because honestly, I want to work myself out of a job here. I want to hopefully educate you guys to the point that you all become VSRs and Raiders, right? That you can become familiarized with this to the point that you feel comfortable, filing your claims, talking about your claims, figuring out, and more specifically, figuring out why you got denied down to the all the subtle little nuances, and we'll talk about it. And then here's a question, certified barn door again. How you doing today, Raider? I'm doing outstanding. Honestly, I put out my my shad video, which I know that a lot of you probably it doesn't affect, but some of these are going to be zingers for you, and some of them are not going to be because I'm not going to play favorites. I could I could tailor my channel to get the maximum number of clicks, or I can at least put the information out for those that need it. And some of the obscure stuff is going to come out. I'm going to sprinkle it throughout, and I just want um I just want everybody to make sure that they can have the opportunity to get what's I guess I want to say this a little bit differently. In the shad video, I point out the egregious fact that a lot of the links to the information needed to successfully file your claim for shad are locked behind the intranet, the internal intranet, and they can't even gain access to it. The training module that I put on there is something that veterans can't gain access to. They don't know what ship and what date. And to me, that actually upsets me to a point that we're just, and these veterans are 1960s, 70s, 1960s and 70s. They're not, they're a more vulnerable demographic of the community, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. It just bothers me, and I don't know. So that's why some of these are going to be really awesome, hard hitting videos that I do, and some of them are going to be tailored for the vulnerable veterans. All right, um, Alessa. I submitted on 6/24, got ordered to CMP on 8/6, got my denial after they shut down my exam for hypertension because my blood pressure was too high and sent me to urgent care. Okay, well, that is working as intended. There is no reason your health should come first. Okay, I know that it sucks. You shouldn't have been denied though. You should be able to put in for a supplemental claim for that or a higher level review. I'm going to lean towards the supplemental claim and say, "Hey, look, and just do a 4138 form and say, "Hey, look, my exam was denied due to and that's my dog. So be careful. I'm going to keep her from barking, but you know, just submit the 4138 and say, "Hey, look, due to a medical emergency during my examination, it was prematurely terminated. Could I please have another?" That's what I would do. Um da, 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 da. I can see the live chat. I can. It's really small. Let me no, that was a bad idea. I can see the live chat, but I'm getting my live stream legs under me, I guess is the best way to put it. And that is what happens right there. Okay. And I'm going slow and I'm sorry guys. I apologize. And I see the members and whenever I get down to the chats, I will get there. Let me see here. Um I might miss some questions. If I do, send me an email, please. Okay. How you suggest connecting hips to feet trouble, both feet. VA examiner stated that they are not medically related. They are separate entity entirely. So you're going to find this very common. Okay, you're going to find this very common in that you you will have an examiner with a specific bias, VicMed. You will have an examiner with a specific bias where they're like, "Oh, those aren't connected." But if you get your examination in front of a different examiner, then you can have the opportunity to have a fresh set of eyes and maybe they have bias towards it. Um, Now, one of the tips and tricks that I have is if you get your care through the VA, right, through the VHA, and you convince your doctor and your doctor's on board with that, then I would request on a VA form 21 4138, I would specifically request to have your examinations done through the VHA because those doctors that do your CMP exam and the doctors that do the primary care go to lunch together. Okay, they all know each other. So it's more likely that you're going to have a favorable interpretation of the medical evidence, but you have to talk to your doctor. You have to start getting evidence to kind of swing this ergonomic, foot trouble causes you to be out of ergonomic balance. Okay, that's the only way that that's going to, be able to be connected, because technically it's not like overuse syndrome where, your right arm and your right arm service connected, so you have to use your left arm more. It's hard to make that connection unless a doctor does it. So, I don't know if that helps, but, uh okay, this is my ego again. You guys gotta stop this, okay? 2 years from now, this channel will be the gold standard for veterans. Thank you for saying that. I just need to hear it. Um, okay, uh, Jay's Leo. Unfortunately, Lord Rest Combat Craig, at least he answered one of my questions. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna weigh in on the Combat Craig thing, just because there's a lot of shenanigans going on with that right now, and I don't want that. But um, yeah, I think that there are better men than me that have, said the right things, and oh, it's raider.hq@gmail.com. That's what the email is. Okay, Rob. Why would a rater in the decision letter say no diagnosis, but the examiner affirms the condition? What's up with that? Um, okay. Affirms the condition. Like, what do you mean by that, Rob? Do you mean like affirms that you have pain? Because if they say that you have a lay statement type condition, if they go, yeah, I think the veteran complains of pain, they do have pain. If that's what the examiner did, that doesn't count as a diagnosis. It's not on an ICD-10 code type situation. But if they said that, like if you say you have patellofemoral pain syndrome and they say that you have patellofemoral pain syndrome and the rater says no diagnosis, then that's hold on, I got a cough. And I'm back. So if they say that there's no diagnosis, then that could be just a favorable finding issue. And an error with a favorable finding is not a clear and unmistakable error. Now, if the results are such that you had a positive medical opinion and you had a positive like in-service event, or you had all three of the elements, Rob, in order to grant, and the rater mistook there to be no diagnosis, but you had all the elements to grant, I would do a higher level review at that point in time. And all my answers are long-winded, and we're already 43 minutes into this and it feels like 10. I'm sorry, guys. Um, Abel, you are definitely one of my favorite veteran YouTubers. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to just rush through these. Okay. Corporal Skedaddler, or do I do a Nexus letter from my doc? I would say do a Nexus letter from your doc always. Even if they send you to an examination, it still counts as evidence that can sway the examiner's perspective. Okay, Fam Man. Raider, is it good or bad when the VA is correcting an error due to a higher level review identifying an error? Um, like I said with the prior one, if you're service connected for something and they're correcting an error, that's typically not a good thing. If you were denied for something and they're correcting an error, then that can be a good thing. So that's my answer for that. Okay, Mitchell Bonnet. While M21 explains actions D-Rock takes, it can't tell us if the D-Rock folks must be reluctant. Great site. Okay. Um, Jackie, the VA denied a claim for chronic back pain and noted that mild scoliosis was found in my intake exam before basic training. I never heard anything before or after the exam for scoliosis. Okay. So for this one, anytime that you have a condition that is, um, and I keep getting that message, YTube685. I will come to it whenever I get down to it. But yeah. Um, so if you're If your condition was found on an entrance exam, the only way it can be granted is through aggravation. Scoliosis, on aggravation, you just had to have complaints of back pain in service, and that could be enough to get you service connected for scoliosis. Now, the problem becomes with aggravation, and I haven't done the video on it yet, and it's very challenging. I'm going to probably ask you to wait for the video for it. But if you had no symptoms of scoliosis, then they would probably rate your pre-service disability at 0%. And then with scoliosis, if you have the contour of your back, um, you know, negatively adjusted due to the scoliosis, then you could max out potentially at 20% for depending on what spinal area it is. The thoracolumbar spine, the or the neck is 30. But what happens is they subtract whatever they found on your entrance exam. If that we would try to rate those symptoms, and then we subtract that from what gets rated in the here and now. So it is possible to get that service connected, Jackie. I guess probably not the question that you had, Jackie. Again, I now have a diagnosis of radiculopathy from a doctor. Should I file a supplemental claim to provide evidence? Um, you're going to want to do a supplemental claim, and if you had in-service treatment, you will want to say claim it under aggravation and just say that my condition was aggravated beyond its natural progression by my in-service injury. That's how you should do that. All right, we're scrolling down here. I'm trying, guys. Um, thank you. Makes sense. Okay. If you are rated for PTSD at 100% static over 5 years and decide to file a aid in attendance with VA Form 2680 from your PCM stating primary care, stating that you are required assistance for your safety and hygiene, would that qualify? No, hygiene maybe. Okay, so you have to look up ADLs, Timothy, activities for daily living. So what happens with the reason why I have not brought up aid in attendance and why I have not brought up um, that specific topic is because it is very challenging and very frustrating. So I hope that you have SMC S1 currently, a special monthly compensation statutory housebound, in which you have 100% for PTSD and then a combined 60% for everything else. And then what happens is if you have statutory housebound, that provides evidence in your favor towards showing that you have aid and attendance needs. Okay, because it SMC S1 and then aid and attendance is SMC L. So there's one is S is the less severe version of it. L is the more severe. Now, when ADLs are in question, the rater is the one that's going to be reviewing it. So you have non medical people for the most part reviewing your doctor's records saying, hey, look, you know, they can or cannot do their activities for daily living. And you have these non medical professionals, us, raters, and whatnot, reviewing your evidence to determine whether or not it satisfies a non medical person's evidentiary requirement of you can't take care of yourself. You can't cook, you can't clean, you can't whatever. PTSD, there's a negative bias towards that. And I'm just going to be honest with you that a lot of raters have a negative bias towards PTSD itself being the cause of your aid and attendance. It's not impossible to get it connected, but it is more challenging to get it connected because they go, okay, well, what's impairing you from cooking? What's impairing you from cleaning? Um, and it's just a negative bias. So just watch out for that, Timothy. All right, my dog. Um, so don't claim GERD secondary to PTSD and NSAIDs use for knees. You can do that. You can do that. That is fine. You just have to have like anytime you make a claim like that, Jarhead, you have to just bring evidence showing, hey, look, here's when I was prescribed my medication. I was prescribed on this date. Um, I started to have symptoms of GERD. I reported it to my doctor. My doctor tried these interventions. Nothing worked because the cause of the GERD was persistent while I was still on these medications. I went to my doctor and I finally said, hey, look, could it be these medications? Yes. And that's kind of the way you want to tie that in a bow for the rater and for the examiner. So All right, now we're down here. Okay, VicMad, $10. Thank you. How you suggested? Okay, I actually got that. Wait, feet problems. Okay, I already answered that one. Thank you so much for this super thingamajigger here, the super donation of $10. I appreciate it. It will go to the actual new computer fund. I'm putting one of those up. And then we've got okay, no bad mojo, another $10. Will the VA accept a chiropractor's diagnosis? No, they will not. I'm going to be honest with you. You will not like this answer. A chiropractor is not a qualified clinician. Uh, they're not a medical doctor unless they are. If they're a medical doctor, then they need to tell us that they're a medical doctor. If not, then their word has the lowest amount of probative value. Um, it's just for VA purposes. I say that in a lot of videos, guys, but I mean it. It has to do with just who is a qualified clinician. And sadly, the um the chiropractors don't make the list because they can't diagnose something. Like they can't diagnose something in order for it to be treated like medically. So it's just one of those weird things that they do, and I do apologize for that. And then Baroness coming in with the $2, the hotness there. Thank you, Baroness. I appreciate it. TC, should I file for IBS increase just 3 months after approval? Yes, you can do it 10 minutes after. You can do it 10 minutes after. And as long, like the only thing, like here's what I say tie yourself off to a tree before you go out on a limb. You need to make sure that your evidence of record satisfies that you at least maintain the current level of severity of your conditions before you move on to the next higher, right? If you're less than 5 years on your IBS, that could be reduced. So you want to make sure that your evidence is stacked in your favor. So that way, if it does fumble, right, the rater, does their stupid thing, then um sorry, I was looking at Tyler's unique question. It's piqued my curiosity. Put it in the chat, Tyler. Um, but make sure that you have the evidence to maintain your current level. If your level's 0, there's no, you can't get less than 0. So always do an increase on a 0, guys. Always. Um, unless it can't go any higher, and then you're just wasting everybody's time. Like if it's at scheduler max at like ED or something like that. Okay, Bill, can I submit a CT scan and report done overseas for a new secondary claim on my current disability? Bill, I mean, technically you can, but what does the CT say? What are you trying to prove with your evidence? Now, this is another thing, guys. If you are submitting evidence, what are you trying to prove? Is there other evidence that proves that same point? So you need to be cautious of this in that the elements for service connection, right? Element 1, element 2, element 3. All 3 of those must be satisfied in order to grant. If you've been like previously denied for something and they say on your rating narrative that you were denied due to element 2, then you need to go back and actually find element 2. Jamming in more element 1 won't do it. And I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, Bill, but I'm saying you need to have a commanding understanding of what the evidence is trying to prove. Now, a lot of people have a lot of element 1. It's one of the easiest things to actually gather. So you may or may not need the CT scan, but it's for the examiner. So as long as they can read it, if it's in English and they can read it, they'll take it at face value pretty much. Okay, Bill? So I hope that answers your question. Sorry if it's long-winded. Melissa, they got back and get SMCK with back pay. Got back and get SMCK with back pay. Melissa, send me an email on that. I'm missing the context. Okay. Mitchell Bonnet, different VBA VBA question. Okay. If VBA advances case due to health, does DROC do so also when it gets service connected from BVA to implement. Okay, so a BVA appeal, what happens with a BVA appeal is the BVA is going to use the case law and they're going to come to a conclusion, okay? And then what happens is that they convert that into likely an EP 040, and then it gets sorted back through the normal rating channels. So it'll get like the results is similar to a higher level review where you actually get two rating decisions for a higher level review. You get whatever is determined by the by that adjudicator. So in this example, it would be the BVA. The BVA will come to a conclusion and then they'll hand it back to the VA and say, actualize this. So then the VSR and the rater will go through and take the actions that are, typically needed using the M21 manual. So even if somebody says that, even if the BVA comes to a decision and you're going to disagree with this, you guys are going to freak out. Okay. And I get it. But even if the BVA commands us to do something, if it falls outside of our M21 manual, I don't care what they said. I'm going to follow the manual. And I know that's you don't want to hear that answer. I've heard it time and time again. You do not want to hear that answer, but that's it. So that's all I got for that one. It's Super Dave. Great channel. This is the most informative VA channel, information channel. You go into great detail. Thanks for the info. Thank you, Super Dave. I appreciate that. I sometimes need positive affirmations just to let me know that what I'm doing, you guys appreciate. Because honestly, I'm so different from what other people are doing. I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing. And I'm keeping this as pure as I can. I'm not taking any I'm not partnering. I'm not doing any kind of, you're not going to see me selling Michelin tires on here. Okay. Like I'm not taking any I'm just taking ad money. That's it. Um, Rob, why technically grant within a year of CMP exam for BDD claim? I, hmm. Okay, so there's a kind of a presumptive period within the year, and I hope that that's what you're talking about. So within a year of your RAD, your release from active duty. Oh wait. Oh, okay. So why technically grant within a year of the CMP exam? Okay, I got you. I got you. It's based upon that earlier question. All right. So what happens is element one is the current diagnosis, right? So if you are currently diagnosed with something within a year, element one becomes satisfied. So what happens is we can technically apply that to BDD claims too. So if you were technically diagnosed with something within a year of that CMP exam, even if we technically can't find anything on that CMP examination, you were technically diagnosed within a year of RAD. And for BDD claims, element one and element two happen at the same time because you're still on active duty. So anything that's diagnosed, it satisfies element one and it satisfies element two and it satisfies element three for BDD claims. So we can technically do that. So maybe send me an email on that. We can talk about it a little bit more in detail. Okay. Thanks, Rob. All right. George. On va.gov, it shows 10, 15 mental health. One, oh, wow. Okay. 1 through 5 CMPs already have SSDI for schizophrenia spectrum. First claim out in 1990 that had 30 different claims. Was I aced out of a 10, 15? I don't know what you're talking about with 10, 15. So if you're talking about healthcare or psychosis, like, okay, even if this condition right here was diagnosed in service and didn't predate service, like if it was diagnosed in service or within a year from service, you can technically get this service connected, especially if it has psychosis associated with it. So just keep that in mind. Uh, wish you had a Discord to push all this channel forward. Okay, yeah, I know, but I just sadly don't have the time. Okay, but a pecan. Question: recently diagnosed with fibromyalgia, also deployed to Afghanistan. Should I submit for? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Big. This is big ticket item here. If you qualify for a muck me, you should always do the muck me first if you've never claimed it before. And the reason why is because it's a free pass. Okay, and I need you guys to hear me on this. Muck me's are granted when the examiner says, "Oh, I have no clue why you have this." right? Isn't that like 90% of all the other claims that you get denied for is like, look, I know it's not because of this, it's due to something else, and I don't know what else it is due to. Muckme's are granted whenever it's due to something else and we don't know what it is. So you have to keep like if you're going to do a muckme, you have to do it first because if you start saying, "Oh no, it's due to my PTSD," muckme's are unexplained conditions. So if you start explaining what's causing it, then it can't qualify as a muckme. So you shut the door. You shut a door to a potential situation where the examiner could go, "Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, fibromyalgia muckme, sure." And it's also a presumptive for muckme. So there's that too. As long as for fibromyalgia, it has to have continued for 6 months. So that's the statutory requirement here. So let me I'm actually going to 38 CFR part 3. We're going to go here and then we're going to go boom 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 boom. Control F 3.317. We'll take a walk on the reading railroad. So right down here, you're looking at the 6 months. For the purpose of this section, disabilities that have existed for 6 months or more, disabilities that intermittent episodes, but you have to have 6 months in order for it to count as chronic, okay? And then if you look here, fibromyalgia, but this is a presumptive condition. It does have 4 questions that the examiner has to answer, but for the most part, it's kind of a slam dunk as long as you have kind of excluded all other possibilities for the symptoms. Fibromyalgia should be a diagnosis of exclusion based upon there being no other possible explanation. Thank you for the question. Eugene, Tater. I don't know why you call me Tater, but yeah, that's not fun. Will the VA accept my claim for sleep apnea secondary to my service-connected migraines? Okay, that's oof. That's going to be a rough one. I mean, the VA will accept the claim. I mean, on paper, if you write those words, I mean, you will get an examination, but you've got to convince an examiner. Yes, Brandon, I will do TDIU. I promise. I swear. But you have to understand, I've done like 50 something videos in under 30 days or so. So it's killing me. Not the speed or anything like that, but it's picking the priority that's killing me. So anyway, back here. You technically can, but how's that Matt Damon? You better science the heck out of it. Yeah, and you better have a doctor that supports you. And if your VA doctor supports this, you better throw this thing at the VA to do the examination. You better request that the VA itself does the examination because I'll tell you right now, QTC, LHI, I don't know how many of you have had positive interactions with those individuals, but this will not fly with them. So just keep that. Yeah, I mean, it's my personal opinion, obviously, but I mean, I've never seen that particular combo be granted before. Just to be honest. Yeah. Okay. Is there a list of doctors that raters are skeptical? No, but I'll tell you right now, I could name 3 that I've just seen. Um, I've seen their stuff, and if they've got a flow chart, okay. B Foster. This is very important because this is actually going to be the purpose of this live stream. Okay, is I want to talk to you about evidence. Okay, and about private DBQs. If your private DBQ, if you read your private DBQ and it says that it is possible that the thing that is being proposed can happen, but it doesn't talk about you specifically. It just says, yes, migraines can be caused by so and so and so and so. And if you look at this Harvard study, migraines can be so and so. That is not persuasive. A high school book report is not persuasive to an examiner and it's not persuasive to a rater. Because what you've told me is it's technically possible, but is it possible for this veteran that is sitting right here in front of me, this claim? If that examiner doesn't explain why, it is more likely than not that your symptoms align and are in conjunction with this specific study. You meet the ethnicity demographic, you meet the age demographic, you meet the circumstances demographic of this particular study. That's persuasive. But if you tell me that and we actually had this happen. I'll tell a funny story, but we had it happen to where somebody put in a study about how Chinese men have more likely than not can have this particular heart condition or something like that. And we're like, okay, is this person Chinese? Is the veteran Chinese? And I mean, whiter than snow. Okay, no, there were pictures of the individual in their records, and they weren't Chinese. So we're like, no, no, not happening. And so the because I was counseling I was doing my QRT liaison duty at the time, and I was talking to the raider who was doing the claim, and I'm like, no, that evidence isn't doesn't speak to this person, this human being. You need to get an exam. Sorry, my dog's barking. So anyway, that's about it. Yes, you can, Daryl. You can request another VA facility to do your CMP exam. Yes, you can. You can specifically cite the place that you want to go. You just have to do it on a 4138. All right, JPC 130. Question: does the VA look at employability in terms of any type of work? No, no. This has to do with your most recent job. This has to do with whatever disabilities that you put on the 8940 form. I think that's the one off the top of my head. But that's the one where they look at the most recent job and how your disabilities affect your most recent job. TDIU does not have to do with whether or not you are overall employable. It has to do with it impairing your ability to do, say, you're an RN. So would your, like let's say you have got panic disorder to the point that you can't socially be near people, or, whenever stressful situations make you productively unreliable to the point that you can't function. That would be a safety concern for you being an RN. So that would be a barrier. That would be a dilemma for you. So that would be the best grounds to lead with to convince the rater. Now remember, the when we do a TDIU claim, we send away for a medical opinion to have the examiner actually go over and I will catch the super chat. I promise. It's just I don't know how to do that yet. But let me answer this question and then I'll do that. Um, so what you're trying to do is you will have what is known as an economic impact assessment. Okay, it's part of an examination that the examiners do, and they say, okay, look, let me see if I can find it. Economic impact assessment, really quick. Okay, so this is it right here. So this is whenever you have an economic impact assessment due to IU, you're going to like the examiner is going to go through and they're going to talk about the physical abilities. What kind of abilities can you do? Can you do sedentary work? Can you do light work? And they're going to contrast this with your TD with sorry, I'm just reading that comment. With your most recent job. Okay, so they will look at that and go, okay, well, an RN, sometimes they have to transfer 500-pound patients, so honestly, that's how I would put it. Sometimes you can do that. I was in the medical field. I know what happens, you know and then like the physical disability. So if you have a back condition or a hip condition, the examiner is going to do a medical opinion in which they kind of cite what activities would cause you problems based upon your ability, your disability, and how that kind of contrasts. So, and they also do it for mental health too, right here. So this is the manual reference for this. It's going to be 843A3C. And if you're doing a TDIU claim, you should be in here. You should be looking at this because you need to explain it to the examiner. So that way the examiner can explain it to the rater, because the rater is going to be the one to decide whether or not your medical conditions your disabilities impair your ability to do the job that you say you do. You might want to list, like if you have kind of an obscure job, you might want to go on and find job duties and then post those with your claim. So that way the rater has some kind of contrasting evidence to kind of put forth, oh, okay, sedentary. Oh, well, this is a heavy, like they can only do sedentary, very heavy lifting. Oh, wow, then they couldn't do that job. I grant you IU. you know, but you also have to meet the other criteria. You've got to meet the scheduler criteria. You've got to meet the fact that you're unemployed. So just keep that in mind. I know that was a long-winded answer, but oh, and this guy, lifestyle changes. And I actually followed lifestyle changes. I liked his videos. So this time of the year, I'm usually fired up for college football on a Saturday. But since you mentioned you were going live, oh man, I'm sorry about that. I should probably change the time for college football. I will think about that. Put that in the whenever this comes out, put in comments when you guys want me to do these lives, okay? I've honestly been more excited about this stream. Thank you. Not I don't want to sound like a fanboy. Okay. Kevin S. Can a new personal statement from a supplemental claim for new theory for service connection compel a new exam? It can if it has to if you were denied due to element 3, there being no like let's say that there was no nexus between like a long time period had passed between your historical injury, like let's say you got out in 1970 and you're just now claiming now, and you never provided a statement saying what the link, like what your treatment looked like between the in-service event and now, then what would happen is you providing that new statement would satisfy element 3 and it would prove or disprove a matter at issue, and it would give a new exam would be warranted hopefully in that case. Now a different one is you could do an independent medical opinion or a VA medical opinion or a private provider medical opinion. That would also be new and relevant evidence. Yeah. Melissa, back again. All right. I have gotten sleep apnea granted 50% for a veteran who had depressive disorder and caused him to get. Yes, this is a very common. I have granted this more times than I've granted anything else for sleep apnea, to be honest with you, Melissa. It is very common because remember how I said that there were 2 medical opinions required? The majority of the time, the examiners will agree that weight gain can cause sleep apnea. So that medical opinion is typically in the bag for the most part, depending on the examiner you get. The other one is, did my primary condition cause my weight gain? Is the one you should really be focusing on. But thank you for the comment. Kevin again. Do I have to be VA diagnosed for obesity? And no, you don't have to be VA diagnosed for obesity. Body mass index of 30% is what we're kind of gearing for. That's what the VA examiners want, is they want a body mass index of 30 or greater. Kenneth Neal, rating decision states that a condition was denied for no clinical diagnosis, yet you were hospitalized and diagnosed for that condition within 1 year of ETS. This has to, it wouldn't be a clear and unmistakable error. Well, okay. It might be based upon what I said beforehand. If you had a diagnosis within a year of your ETS, then technically we could have granted that. It's this particular theory that I'm talking about is relatively recently disseminated by the National QRT. So the National QRT tells us how to interpret the manual. So when they have a like a not a personality shift, but whenever they have a different feeling about something, we start behaving in a different way based upon how the national QRT kind of disseminates the information. And they've been telling us to start reviewing for this scenario where there's a clear diagnosis and it's within a year of your RAD. So definitely might think about a higher level review if you want. As the dust settles. Okay. AD here, enrolled in burn pit registry due to deployments, don't have presumptive conditions. I do have other diagnosis like GERD, etc. Will I have issues trying to get these exposures under BDD? No, these will be direct. BDD is direct. All of it's direct unless it's aggravation. Like if you had it pre-existing service, then those are the only 2 theories that apply on a BDD. So direct and aggravation if the presumption of soundness was not intact. I did a video on that. How prevalent is development to deny? No, it's not really, because it doesn't do, Rodney, it doesn't, development to deny is not necessarily a thing because you can get in trouble for that. You can get a quality error for that. It's called when you're delaying the claim. If you're delaying the claim for no reason other than to get points, there has to be some kind of possibility for taking the action. So if you have a positive Terra memo and your condition is not a Terra exception, then you can then getting you a Terra examination, as long as you have a current diagnosis, makes sense, because rather than openly deny you, right, we're supposed to run out the clock to see how many theories we can potentially get you service connected like all of the theories should be reviewed and ran down that could apply before we just arbitrarily deny you. And the reason why is because a supplemental claim requires much more evidence to get it going. So it's better to do everything at once. And if we're going to deny, we had this chant that we would do: grant when you can, deny when you must. And it was a true statement. Like that's the way that I lived my, Raider life, is based upon that chant. Grant when you can, deny when you must. And then, uh-oh, we got Dell here. 9.99. Thank you so much. Thanks for your best information by far. Service connected GERD and PTSD, just diagnosed with OSA. Is that a good idea to file secondary to PTSD aggravated by GERD? Okay, this falls back. I would do one at a time. This falls back to, don't split your odds. You have higher odds if you just go with one thing. Now, the best thing that you can do is start probing your doctors to see, hey, do you think my OSA could be caused by my GERD or maybe by my PTSD? What do you think, doctor? Hey, could we add that to my treatment plan? And that's one of the most powerful things that you can do, is add things to your treatment plan, because that makes them have to write it down. And I don't know about you guys, and I'll look for the little scrolly chat here. How many times have you been nearly psychotically angry at your doctor not writing down what the heck you tell them? So adding things to your treatment plan means that they kind of have to do it. So Dell, thank you I don't even know what to call this, but the donation, the support, I appreciate it. It's not required, guys. But it helps me to stay in the game, I guess. I don't know. So Michael or Mitchell, sorry, I'm sorry. I had stupid Lexia there. I just messed that up. Might he have been asking if being older might get him advanced on the list? Yes. So I mean, you can get, like, there's certain they're called flashes in VBMS, and one of them is you have to be over 85 to get like priority. That's what you're talking about, hopefully, is the priority processing. So like being terminally ill is one of them. Being over 85 is another one. So it is technically possible, yes. So I apologize if I misunderstood that. Thank you for addressing obesity. The VA wants to have it both ways. They do. And unfortunately, they do. They want it. Like, I don't know what's going on currently with the disposition of the VA, but it's like changing things just to change things to make it to where any kind of situational norm gets changed a lot. And I don't know why. But whenever something starts performing well, like Terra, they make changes to it, right? And by performing well, I mean being granted. It's like being granted. The VA should not take issue with things being granted commonly, because if examiners find that there's a link between A and B, then there's a link between A and B. The VA trying to make things harder does nothing, and it doesn't help anything, and it's not veteran centric, and I'll tell you that. So I do take issue. I'm trying to be as objective as I can be, but I do have a lot of strong feelings about what is done and what's not done. Thank you for the question, Kevin. TC with $5. You rock. It should be. It should be. So it's raider.hq@gmail.com. So that's what it is. So I apologize. It's on my main page, typically. I'll double check that whenever the stream is done. Jason, can my service connected acne scars be considered as contributing to low self-esteem? Yes. Yes, you can secondary the weirdest things. I have seen secondary eyeball Visual loss due to knee, secondary to knee. And what happened was the veteran fell. They they when they fell down the stairs due to their knee buckling, they actually hit their eye, like their knee went straight into their eye, broke their like orbital, their I forget what it's called, the arch on the cheekbone, and it actually damaged their eye. So yeah, anything can be pretty much secondary with enough science. So okay, Melissa. Gosh, I have so many questions. I'm just listening and taking everything in right now. So many great answers. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would love to just do this for hours. I mean, I'll do this for 2 hours because I love teaching. I teach raters and VSRs, and I love teaching because the information matters to me because veterans matter to me. And when you do stuff that you love, you're not actually working. And I love it. So um mental health CMP examiner here. Do raters use information from both? And yes. Okay. So, yes, we can actually, and do not hurt him. A lot of bravery here for B, him or her. I don't know. I don't know gender on this, but no negative things about B. Okay. Like B's being brave right now. But yes, we do sometimes. What we'll do is we will do an assessment as to whether or not the DBQ is sufficient. But if you're getting it in your hands, typically that's because the VSR and or rater have deemed the DBQ to be insufficient. Now, if you find value in it, you should use it. You can overrule the VSR and you can overrule the rater. Like if they give it to you and you're picking up what that veteran's putting down, for symptoms, like if there's circumlogical speech, if there's spatial distortions, if there's, something to that effect that matches the private DBQ, you are free to make any determination you want. Be like, I'll be honest with you, you can do that. You can advocate for the veteran, but just make sure that when you do, that your your medical are you what happens with our insufficiencies when we send things back to you guys for clarification and or insufficiency deferral, you have to be careful with the remarks section because if you say something that contradicts, like if you check boxes and those boxes don't match up with what you say, like one time, the majority of the time is the veteran was well groomed, body language, they had a normal psychomotor activity. Their mannerisms were congruent with, whatever. And then you check boxes for, the veteran or speech. Speech was the biggest one for me. Like the veteran is unable to communicate effectively, can't understand complex commands. But then you will write in your notes, or not by you, but I mean like some examiners will write in your guys' notes that like veteran is unable to, you'll check that box, but veteran explains this complex thing to you, and it's like, okay, well, how those are mutually exclusive, right? You need to explain to me how that examiner or no, how that veteran can have, completely just illogical thought processes, but is a rocket scientist and has no effect at their work. So you just have to be careful with that. But yeah, that's the most of the time whenever I send mental health stuff back, or this grinds my gears. Actually, hold on, ranting coming. I'm you stop it. I see all these symptoms, personality disorder symptoms, right? Circumlogical speech, we've got spatial distortions, we've got all the fancy stuff, right? And I'm looking, and then I look at the diagnosis and it's adjustment disorder. Now I'm going to tell you right now, B, you do that kind of stuff to me, you tell me that the person has adjustment disorder, which on the ICD-10 code would probably be the lowest thing. It's what, if you're in private practice, that's what you assign somebody whenever their condition doesn't meet any other diagnosis that's more severe, but you check all the boxes for them being like almost clinically certifiable. I'm going to take issue with that. I'm going to take issue with that on the private side. That exam is going back. So I'm sorry, B. You just hit me in the wrong spot, B. Thank you for the question, though. All right, Kenneth. If you deployed to Afghanistan during the required period of time, would an ILR be in your file? It wouldn't be in your file we have to actually specifically request it from the DoD. So if you claim something that is not a Terra exception, right? Then yes, it would be in your file because we would use it to process the claim that you've submitted. But you would have had to have, if you'd have to submit something that could be a Terra. Now, how you tell that is on your rating narratives, you'll have like a favorable finding of PACT Act, like of Terra exposures. If you have that in a favorable finding on your narrative, then yes, it should be in your record at that time, if it is of record. Adjustment disorder is just the lowest severity disability you can be diagnosed with. It just typically means that you didn't meet criteria for GAD or MDD, generalized anxiety disorder or major depressive disorder. If you had more severe symptoms, then you would actually be diagnosed with those more severe things. The reason why that's important is because it actually matters for, is the veteran appropriately diagnosed? That would be the conflicting medical evidence that I would call the error on to send the claim back. YT. All right, let's go. So Baroness became a new YouTube member. That's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Tyler, how should I file? Okay. Email me. Mitchell, have you ever seen D-Rock disagree with BVA granting service connection? No. BVA gets to grant, but how we rate is different. Like it's within our own scope. BVA judge even mentioned, stop it, overruling VA multiple times in the same case over postmark rule. Yeah, this is just fighting between mom and dad, and I don't want to weigh in on that. But sorry for my dog. Okay, CRW service connected to 0%. Service connected for dry eyes. Yeah, it can happen. Yeah. Sean, hey Sean, how's it going? Does everyone have an Eiler? No. Anybody before 1990 will not have an Eiler. So anyone that served before, or actually, I should say, anybody that discharged before 1990 will not have an Eiler. And people that discharge around 1990 may have an Eiler. And then when you get to 2000, more people will have an Eiler. And then after that, a lot of people have Eiler, and then almost everyone has an Eiler. That's kind of the way that works because they weren't actually taking stock of the chemicals that you were exposed to until the 2000s when it became, I don't know, more important. But thank you for the question. Chris, is there no evidence prior to entry and an examiner states that back pain cannot support a diagnosis of lumbar scoliosis and degenerative arthritis, rare denies? Can I file a high level review? Did you have this stuff in service? If you had this stuff in service, then you might want to do a higher level review. I don't have enough information to be what I would consider confident in an answer on that, Chris. Send me an email. I'll try to see what I can do. Whenever I say send me an email, I mean, I will try to get to the emails as soon as I can, guys, but the email box is just overflowing. Okay, no bad mojo. Oh, wow, $10. Here we go. Best strategy to get the most out of a Goal 4 exam. Veteran and rater. What evidence should be brought to the Goal 4 exam, if any? Okay, so length of time of symptoms should be what actually is, reviewed for and whatnot. Symptoms, no diagnosis, symptoms. MUCMEs are the weirdest thing in that they're upside down. Normally, we want you to have a diagnosis. It's more beneficial to you. But in this instance, for MUCMEs, symptoms are more important to you. And the fact that they lasted for 6 months and there's no cause. Like, MUCMEs are the weirdest thing in that, like, people can just walk in off the street and get granted for MUCMEs and not have any real diagnosis or anything. They just get granted. It's the weirdest thing. Thank you for the question. Charles Bender, from your rater perspective, what are the top pitfalls when filing a fully developed Goal 4 MUCME? Oh, saying it's due to something, claiming it's due to something, that'll get you. Yeah, saying it's secondary to something, trying to get, not taking the muck me as the first swing, and then trying to do a muck me after you've already tried to claim something else, that's a pitfall. Um, if the condition okay, so here's another one. If the condition predates your deployment to a qualifying location, that's a pitfall because there's no way that that if you had the condition before the deployment, there's no way it could have caused, the deployment could have caused the condition. So that's a pitfall. You need to make sure that you are actually reviewing your evidence to see when the timeline is to make sure that that's the most likely cause of your condition. Thank you for the question. YT, so many questions answered, but this is the first formal one, I think. Does it surprise you that veterans have so many questions? No, it doesn't, because I'll be honest with you. I'm watching a lot of people walk through the desert and there's no water to be found. And good answers, like, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but you guys just want honest answers and not ones that are like, well, if you come over to my, my pay site here and, I'll do this thing for you, and I'm the only one that can help you. And I don't do that. I just want to make sure. And I try to, prove it over here with the manual. I want to do the videos so that way I educate you guys, so because that's what I wanted. I went to work for the VA because I got so angry. Mostly because they wouldn't answer a phone at any given time, but actually, I wanted to be able to understand it. So I kind of changed my entire life around to work for the VA to understand my, Andrew Kelly, yes, you may. Yes, you can. You can do it secondary to PTSD, or you can do it secondary to weight gain. PTSD itself sometimes has nocturnal night terrors, can cause you to wake up prematurely. Hey, Raider. Yes, Teddy. Yes, it is service connected. I denied on a direct theory, but asked for right ankle secondary to left ankle. Dro said difference of opinion. Okay, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So that has legs. That can get you for. How long did you work for the VA? 10 to 12 years. Um, Easy does it. Nice. Well played. What is an EMS contention cancellation in reference to my claim? So EMS, it's the scheduling. It's an exam cancellation. Typically, that's from the VHA. I want to say EMS. Yeah, it has to do with your era. So whenever we order exams to keep things neutral, we go through this program and we put your zip code into the program, and it tells us who we can order the exam through based upon whether or not the VA has the providers available to do the exam and whether or not, which vendor to send you to potentially. So EMS cancellation means that the vendor or the VHA canceled your exam due to a scheduling issue. Now, it could be because you didn't answer the question, or it could be because, you know, um, they had something come up. Like I've seen examiners get sick. I've seen examiners be on vacation and they just, messed up. Thank you for the question. All right. Visior agent. Okay. If scheduled a CMP exam, CMP combat, should you upload and bring CMP exam evidence of stress? Okay. No, 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 no. And I need you guys to understand this. Okay. If you're going for combat or you are going for fear based, okay, the fact that you were over there, okay, let's use combat first of all. Now, this is a big deal. I need you guys to listen to me on this. The more you start talking during that examination, you start saying stressor statements and providing specific instances, you are making the raider have to look and verify them. I need you to understand that, okay, what that means. So you went from a presumptive, all I have to do is say that I went over there and got shot at. I have a car, I've got a cab, I've got whatever I've got, combat infantry badge, I got whatever I got, showing I was in combat. But the moment you start talking and you start elaborating, you make it to where we have to prove it to be true. It actually diminishes your claim. I need you to not do this, please. Okay. Uh, just talk about combat. I took fire a lot of the times, whatever is true for you. It's got to be true for you, right? But please don't do that. Now, non-combat, personal trauma, MST, those are specific on the details. Okay, those require the details. Um, if you read roommate's comment, the patient makes gasping, choking. Okay, that caught me off guard. But anyway, Vizio, that's what you got to do. No personal letters. No, none of that crap. If you can prove, and I don't mean that crap. I mean, hopefully you know what I mean. This is on rails. All you have to do is just show that you were in combat. That's all you have to do, and then just show that you have a diagnosis of PTSD and how severe it is. That's all you have to do. PTSD, combat, and fear-based are nearly presumptive conditions. Nearly. You just have to make sure that the examiner doesn't pick a different stressor that caused your PTSD, like like spousal issues or whatever. Anyway, Phoenix Lights. Raider Shad was great. Older veterans such as Vietnam appreciate. Well, thank you very much. You know what, and I'm not trying to get all the clicks in the world, but if you guys can spread the word at least. I mean, I do have ulterior motives. I do want to grow larger as a channel, but um, there are some veterans out there that they need to see this information because what I gave on that list for Shad, that's not public facing. So, but if you know the name of the test, you can Google it, and that's public facing for some reason. But it's like the VA left out the most important thing. And guys, there's a lot of comments. All right, B. How do rares see the difference between PTSD and other specified trauma disorder? Okay, this is a great question, B. PTSD can actually get fear based and combat based almost knee jerk presumptively. Other specified trauma disorder requires you to prove a stressor, no matter if you were in combat and or fear. You've got to prove your stressor. Even if it was deep in country, and you were taking fire running across a bridge, like whatever, you've got to prove you're at that bridge at that time, that happened, that there were bullets firing around you. You have to prove it. Other specified trauma disorder is a lesser diagnosis. But if you're talking just from like it hurts the veteran, other specified trauma disorder can hurt the veteran. It makes it well. Do whatever's ethical for you and whatever the veteran whatever their diagnosis actually is. Okay, you do whatever you're supposed to do, but there is a difference. And other specified trauma disorder creates barriers for veterans, so use it sparingly, please, if you can, if you have the option. All right. Certified barn door. How we doing to get? Okay. I mean, I got that. Out come off. Okay. $10. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. It just makes me giggle. Great. Thank you. We'll do how question. I filed for a claim after PACT Act was passed and was denied before the Raider guidance came out. No mention of terror. Okay, so OIG, Jeff, there's a problem with this. Like OIG has called out the VA for this because there's this window of time between August 10th, 2022 and January the 1st of 2023 in which we started doing the claims because they needed the time to kind of build the SOP for it. It's going to be a supplemental claim. It's going to be a supplemental claim, and it's going to have to go through TARA, like you said. But there also is an OIG investigation kind of thing going on, but I wouldn't hold my breath for that, and it's not going to help you any waiting for it, so I would just do the supplemental claim. Okay, W.E. Wilson, $10. Wow, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. Sinusitis, don't have an incapacitating episodes. But I do have 6 or more non-incapacitating episodes with 3 doctor's visits. Do they have to be documented each time to meet the 6 or more? Okay, so all right. Okay, 38 so far. Part 4. Okay, sinusitis. Hold on just a second. Okay. So sinusitis. This is where we come across that or situation, okay? So or 30 30%. Okay, so we're looking at 30%. Okay, so we're looking at this or situation, or more than 6 non-incapacitating episodes per year of sinusitis characterized by headaches, pain, okay, purulent discharge, or crusting. It doesn't tell me how these have to be documented. Okay, you don't necessarily need 3 doctor's visits, but you need to have 6 doctor's visits, um, or more than 6, so 7. 7 non-incapacitating episodes reported to your doctor. So, as long as it's on a doctor's note as to how many you have, I would take that. I would take that in a heartbeat, okay? So, yeah, no, the hospitalized ones, the incapacitating episodes, yeah, you might need to go see like, go be in a hospital maybe, depending on the circumstances, right? Lasting 4 to 6 weeks. The or granting doesn't require that. Doesn't say how I have to be notified of that. As long as your doctor reports that you've had 6 or more, or 7, I should say, then you're fine, in my opinion. Okay, pot scraper. If you are approved for Terra presumptive IBS and you applied for Terra presumptive fibromyalgia, will they rate them separately or together? Separately. Yeah, they will be separately. Yeah. There's no 38 CFR 4.14 pyramiding there. Yeah, you're fine. All right, lifestyle changes. Fortunately, I think it's perfect the way you're doing it, Raider HQ. Grateful, all the knowledge. Somebody had asked me about my name, why I call it Raider HQ after dark. Um, and it was kind of a play on words for moonlighting kind of thing. I was meaning to do this to teach newer VSRs and newer Raiders how to after hours, get better at their job, because this should be seen as a craft or a practice in which you don't just put in 8 hours a day. You should be putting in, an additional 2 hours a day to learn what it is that the job does. If you want to be good at something, you got to put in the effort. And that was something, um, Mr. Ray, I'll try. I'm so sorry. But anyway, um, hold on. Let me go up here. Okay, so let me scroll down here. Mr. Ray. There we go. I apologize. I didn't see the tab. So I scrapped a claim for loss of use of feet. Can you tell me the best approach to SMCL for evidence besides 2680 statement? It's going to be the 2680 statement, honestly. Um, buddy statements don't really prove the point, um, as to whether or not you can perform your ADLs. Thank you all also for the 9.99. I appreciate that, Mr. Ray. What matters to me is whether or not, like, what ADLs. So look up ADLs, and then I want examples of how your disability that prevents you from doing those specific activities, right? That's what's going to be probative to the rater that is reviewing your specific aid and attendance application. Okay. If you don't do that, um, then you're going to kind of miss the mark, because you're trying to convince, like, I would assume you're not a medical person. You're trying to convince a non-medical person from a non-medical person perspective how this impairs your ability to do laundry, to cook, to clean, to do things for yourself, and what that looks like. So I would provide examples of those in personal statements. I would provide buddy statements, to kind of, so that way it can be granted at the regional office level. I hope that that answers your question. Let me go through these real quick because, okay, here's to show support and passion. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support. Okay, appreciate all you do. Amazing work. Thoughts on obtaining DBQ support? BDD claim also does Apple Watch showing. No, Apple Watch showing does not count. No, because who's wearing the watch? Um, that's the first thing that pops into my mind. How do I know that you were wearing the watch? But thank you, for the donation. I do appreciate it. Guys, I might need to get off of here in about 15 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to try to get these questions, And anything I don't answer, I will try to follow up in the video's comments. Okay. I'll do my best, guys. The Baroness, the $2. Joe, to BDD or not to always BDD. Joe, always BDD. It's the easiest way to grant. Like, you're still in. You don't know what the pain and suffering is like on the other side of the fence. Okay. Do the BDD and claim everything that's not nailed down. Okay. I cannot stress that enough. Um, W.E. Wilson, I have had a colonoscopy, endoscopy from a gastro doc. Couldn't continue there for treatment to do work. Got IBS diagnosis from my urgent care. Is that good enough for a night? Yes, it is. Because there is no test to confirm IBS. It's why it's potentially a muck me, is because there's no known cause etiology, like structural etiology for IBS. So that's why tests can't prove that you have IBS other than, uh, if you were to show actual, defecation frequency type thing. All right. Odyssey. Okay. Thank you for keeping us all informed. I appreciate that. Thank you for your support. And then uh Rich Rod, super sticker. And then new member, Mr. Ray. I think I got through all the starred comments. And I do apologize, guys. I am learning this software. Okay. So I've never done a live stream with this software. So I am sorry for that. Um, Tim and DC, new member. I got to find out where I was beforehand. Thank you, Mr. Raider, Dustin Mason. Do handwritten migraine logs. Okay. You're not going to like me. Handwritten migraine logs do not matter. They matter to the examiner, but not to the rater, because 0, 10, and 30% is decided exclusively by the examiner in question 4A of the DBQ. Okay. They prove that. So if you don't prove how often you have, how frequently or how severe you have your migraines, if you don't prove that, then what's going to happen is you're not going to get the rating. And there's nothing that the rater can do. Okay. Because you have to convince the examiner. Migraines is really weird in that the examiner decides 0, 10, and 30, and half of 50. Once 50 comes around, they have to mark 4B, question 4B on the migraine DBQ is yes. And then they have to actually go through and say the right severity, at which point in time it gets handed off to the rater. And then you have to convince the rater that you have severe economic well, not severe. I guess it is. Yeah. Severe economic inadaptability due to, and actually, let me just look over here. 8100 is the code for that. You have to convince them that you have very frequently, this is 4B, is the 4. This side of the and is decided by the examiner. This side of the and is decided by the rater based upon your objective evidence that you submit. So a handwritten log will satisfy you up to 30%. But if you're trying to get 50, we're going to need something like, reasonable accommodations for work. We're going to need something like you lost your job due to your migraines that can be cited, something like that, something big ticket items. Brandon, I was denied for gastritis when I got out of service in the 90s and recently filed a new claim and evidence, hoping it would be supported by toxic exposure. Goal for illness was continued. Thoughts? Okay, so what happens is a MUCME has a two-part exam to it. It has a MUCME portion, and then if the MUCME portion fails, they default to a TERA examination. So if you get one, you actually get both answered. So what can happen is if they didn't add new, like if you were denied due to element 3, like they disagreed that the chemicals could have caused your current gastritis, the only way to fight that is to interject new evidence of maybe new teras, new toxic exposures. So, go to a VSO, find out what your toxic exposures and ILA report says. And if you can think of any other toxic exposures, do some homework, look those up, and then claim them specifically on a supplemental claim and say, hey, look, I would also like to be considered for these toxic exposures due to these job duties. That's about the only way that you're going to bring new and relevant evidence to prove or disprove the gastritis due to TERA. Okay. I hope that helps, Brandon. I know it's not good news. Dustin, does an RN with 15 years of experience have any value in making an opinion? No, they are not a qualified clinician. The symptoms provided by the RN, and Dustin, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be discriminatory or anything like that. Um, I just, no, no, I don't want to disillusion you. No, a nurse cannot, because a nurse cannot technically diagnose anything. Now, their lay statement would only matter as much as anyone else's lay statement. There would be no additional validity to it other than just to be a personal statement or a lay statement. But yeah, I mean, it could, depending on like if you're talking about current manifestations of OSA, um, and the correlation between migraines, they could make that determination, or they could make that statement. And Mr. Ray, yes, I do hope I get the new computer because it's running hot. DBQ used in, okay, so DBQ used in BDD claim, is that a thing? Yeah, it's called a SHA. It's a separation health assessment. Yeah, so let me. It's just basically like a general medical examination. Can VA complain about you for giving this information and teaching veterans? I'd rather not think about that. Random. They can complain. Yes, they can, because. But see, I don't take any. I'm not doing this in the way, like, I'm not furthering any specific goal or anything like that. This is just purely educational. So, Dustin, I received. Okay, so maybe Roy was talking to Dustin. Okay. So 5:35. So an hour ago, these were these. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to skip through this. Great people. Got a minute. A unique question. DBQ. I already answered that. Okay, Brian. If you're already 100% TMP, what are you looking for? Are you looking for SMCK? Are you looking for SMCS1? I mean, what? Touchy, no touchy typically, unless you can specifically get something. Okay, you're doing great. Appreciate it. Any tips for SMCS with mental health? Okay, this one's kind of interesting because my neurosis. You can technically get it if you have like a panic disorder. Sometimes individuals with panic disorders can get spatial distortions due to severe panic disorders. You knock it off. Yeah, hold on. We're getting close to time, guys. But yeah, so if you had symptoms, say, of like hygiene issues to a certain point, or if you had spatial or time distortions due to severe panic attacks, those are certain symptoms that can normally be associated with a personality disorder or psychosis. But yeah, they can be modified for panic attacks. I think B would probably have a better response than I would on that, but yeah, it's possible. Um, okay, Sergeant 12 XU, if just granted PTSD attempt, am I exempt from the 5-year exam rule? No. You're exempt from routine future exams, which you shouldn't have due to it being a mental health condition. But if they take issue with something, or if you claim something and you use the wrong words, uh, and they end up giving you a new examination for some weird reason, you can definitely have that reduced. So, no touchy. Okay, Tyler, friend of mine, 2 enlistments. Oh gosh. Oh man. Okay, Tyler, just email me. I'm gonna look through these a little bit and try to find some ones that haven't already been answered. If I miss your guys' comments and or questions, no kill the messenger. Okay, wait. I gotta look here. Um. Oh my gosh. Hold on. I gotta see this. So JPC 130 did a super sticker for $10. Thank you. Um, Old Texan just became a YouTube member. I appreciate that. Kent Griever, 9.99 for the new computer and dog biscuits. I love it. James Douglas, $2. Mr. Ray for the new computer and dog biscuits. Oh wow, thank you so much. Oh, Roger. This is from all of us who didn't have it today and wish they did. Trust me, I know the feeling. You are a blessing. You always answered my comments before I became a member. Thank you, Roger. That warms my heart. More than you know. Outcometh. I can't ever say that. $5 respect. Appreciate it. And then Joe, 4.99. During the BDD process, if you're already diagnosed while on active duty, does that what could stop your claim for that diagnosis being granted? If it was pre-existing service, number one. Number two, if the examiner thinks that it's an acute or transitory condition that can cause problems. But normally they're on rails. Like I love granting BDD claims because they're so easy to grant and they're worth so many points. But yeah, typically, Joe, not much can derail it. Let me go back here. So I wish you had Discord to push this channel forward. I do too. I don't know. Discord's tough. MST George will be coming. Okay. I'm going to be doing a video on it. I just need to put it together because I want to do it justice. It's a very sensitive topic. And if I provide information, I want it to be complete. I want it to be concise. And I want it to be meaningful and helpful. Okay. Because it is a sensitive topic. And I am not an MST coordinator anymore. And I need to do my homework on it because I want to put out quality. Okay. Or a beard with a chicken in the background. Um, okay. Hi, Raider. Video channel so far. I had a question in one vid. You didn't recommend filing in September. However, with the changes coming, okay. I look if your evidence is on lock, like if your evidence is locked down, like you've got it, it's a presumptive condition. Sure, go ahead. If you're doing a supplemental and it's on something that's kind of strange, like migraines causing sleep apnea, right? It's not the norm. I would wait until October to do it. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if you've noticed the VA currently, but it's on fire with how much they're letting people go every left and right. They're changing everything just to change it. There's no rationale as to why they're doing what they're doing. And I'm not knocking the VA. I'm just saying that when you do that to people, right? People that need concentration and they need absolute concentration to keep their focus on doing the right thing with your claim, and you want to just poke them and mess with them and keep messing with them and messing with them and messing with them. And they're to the point now where they're in the quality burn time where if they've got enough quality to coast through the end of the year, then they're just going to just do numbers and they're not going to care. So personally, I would wait. I would just wait. How should we go about dealing with a CMP examiner not uploading their DBQ report in a timely manner? There's nothing, Ramo. There's nothing that you can do. Hell, there ain't nothing that the VSR can do. They have what is known as exam liaisons, and the exam liaisons can reach out to the vendor and say, "Hey, what's going on?" But it takes as long as it takes with them. We cannot pressure them to do it any faster, and they have a quality review time. So what'll show up in VBMS is pending results, and that's them going through their quality reviews on it. And you can't hurry it up, and you don't want them to hurry up. You really don't, because what can happen is they can actually like screw up and then cause the rater to have to send it back for clarification. So you do not want them to rush. Um, oh wait, I already got that one. All right. And then Felix. Felix. So such a loyal, like Felix was one of the earlier followers. I like Felix. Felix is good people. What is really up with favorable findings? Is it something that we can use to argue, or is it just it's a participation trophy. Now, typically, what does it mean when you have a favorable finding? It means that we've proven something to be true. So we've proven element one, element two, or element three to be true. Um, Mr. Hater. Oh, that was nice at the end there. I said such nice things about Felix too. No, it's it's honestly they can mean things, but mostly what they're meant to do is they're meant to show like that we told you something. If you guys go back and look at the video that I had about short and long form narratives, the short form narrative, we're required to put it on there. It's a requirement. Doesn't have to say hardly anything, but it's a requirement. Um, all right. Brandon, would you please do a YouTube video on TDIU? Yes, I will. Okay, I'm looking through this. And then Mr. Raider, I got it. Guys, I'm gonna have to probably call it 14 minutes from now. I'm gonna call the stream, but I will try to get the rest of these comments. I'll do my best on this. Um oh, okay. I'm just looking through the comments trying to find ones that can do the most good in the shortest amount of time. Um I've kind of touched on the BDD claims, guys. Sorry, yes. Goal for 6 months. Now, while I'm looking through these, if you guys can spread the word about the channel, that's my shameless plug for this. Um, if you could, I would appreciate it just because I want to try to get out it to as many people as I humanly can. Oh, God. Well, he's raging YouTube. I've got a question. I've had two higher level reviews. Both of them said my exams were insufficient. My last higher level review remanded it back to the RO for blood test. And guess what they did in ACE exam? No blood test. So you could technically do a supplemental claim on that. I'm going to advise you to please do the blood test yourself. Okay. When you come across these situations in which the VA is not doing certain procedures for you, the best remedy for that, Wally, is to actually get the blood test done so you can prove that it's true. New evidence must prove or disprove a matter at issue. If you're relying on them to get the test, that's not the right answer because the VA can fail you and they can fail you multiple times, as evidenced by your example there, Wally. So I feel for you. Just try to get the blood test as best you can and then prove it in the here and now. Um, yes. If you receive SSDI, you can use those conditions for lay evidence. Yes, you can. Because for TDIU claims, we use Social Security examinations as evidence for TDIU because it shows impaired disability and it's already had a judgment on it. So those are very probative in the VA's eyes. So just keep that in mind, please. Okay. Um, Lifestyle changes. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going through here. Uh, Mike Shepard. Yes, you should wait until October 1st unless you have evidence that is overwhelmingly proving your point. Because the quality burn thing is just a percentage of people. It's like 10%, but it's 10% chance every single time somebody touches your claim. Keep that in mind. Okay, I picked on this one because of Loyal Sauce. What do you think of Loyal Sauce? CMP from them. Telehealth lasted 7 minutes. Private DBQ seemed to ignore. So if you had a private DBQ and then you get an examination, they have burned your private DBQ. So that is why if you guys look at my personal statement videos, at my private DBQ videos, I tell you guys what you need to do in order to hopefully like plead with the raider and plead with the VSR to please contact you specifically if they're going to deem your exam, your private DBQ to be insufficient. You guys need to do that so that way you can say, hey, look, I gave you guys specific instructions on here. Please do this. Be nice. Everyone should be nice, but be nice. Um, Let me see here. Just a couple more. The rooster. Live stream is helping me with my anxiety in some ways. Can you put the email somewhere? I will, Tyler. I will put the email. I will pin a comment at the whenever I upload this. I will pin a comment with my email on it. Okay. Now keep in mind, I should not be um, doing your claim. This is just for education about the process. Okay. Like, so that's not what my goal is. In the future, I would like to do accredited claims agent after I retire, which I'm in the process of retiring, but I'm not going to tell you when I retire. Um, but accredited claims agent's where I'm at. But I'm not going to use the channel to hype my accredited claims agent. Okay. If you guys whenever that happens. All right. So just keep that in mind, please. All right. Um, Kenneth, there is no specific form designated for CONE. How do you know what claim form to use? Well, if it's based upon, you can use any claim form. If it's a denied condition, you should use a 0995. If it's a service connected condition, you should use a 526EZ. If you're going to call a CONE, you should use an attorney because there are specific requirements, and technically, you only get one chance to successfully appeal CUNE. And if it's not sufficient enough, you burn your chance. So that's the value of an attorney. Okay. I can't help push your claim. George, I cannot do that. No, that's unethical. No touchy. All right. Here's a question. What are my chances? Favorable findings, disabilities chronic, which may be presumptively linked. I have sufficient to meet minimum requirements for presumptive part one. Okay. Well, that's part one. Let's go to part two. Do I need a current diagnosis? You will always need a current diagnosis. If it's presumptive, then no nexus is required. You just need the location. Okay. So that is that. Yes. Okay, Mike Shepard, this is a very important question. Yes, we do take into consideration annual training, but the injury, the initial onset injury had to happen during a time that you were paid for the military. And it can even be driving home from drill. Okay. Driving to and driving from are protected actions too. So, but yes, act, and it would count as Title 32, but it counts for element 2. And then what happens is if we end up service connecting the condition, yeah, no touchy. If we end up service connecting it, then we take that period of time and we turn it into active duty for the VA. And then any other disability you have that happened during that time counts for active duty. So that's why a lot of people I suggest do hearing loss and tinnitus first for a period of service that was Title 32 that you want to try to activate, because that is the easiest thing to get activated. And then once it's activated, all the incurrence during that time count as element 2, as if you were on active duty Title 10 orders or if you were active duty in the branch of service that you're in. So that's a little tip or trick right there. Okay. So you guys need to do that. And then looking down here, um, it looks like we've got a few more comments here. Uh, Tyler became a member, and then No Bad Mojo did the $10 again, which is so crazy. And then also Tyler did a super sticker thing for $10. I mean, wow. I'm beside myself, guys. I am truly beside myself. I need to. I've got 6 minutes. All right, I'm going to write down while I'm here. I'm gonna pause the questions. Okay, guys. I need to write down the time that I on these questions that they're each time stamped. So I'm gonna just say Daryl. This is where I'm gonna stop for the questions. Okay. So Daryl, and Daryl happened at 6:03. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep this program open and I'm gonna try to answer these questions hopefully in the chat. I don't know how I would do this. Other than to just go through and just make a lot of posts. if you guys can you post your questions in in this video whenever I upload it? Can you go back through and repost your questions in the comments section of this video? I'll try to snag as many as I can, but if I miss you, right? If I miss your question, post it in the video and I answer almost every single question, guys. So, I mean, anything that anybody asks me, I answer. So, except for Daryl's right now because I haven't actually answered it. But does your service connected illness or injury have to be chronic? Yes, it has to be chronic. It cannot be acute or transitory. So, what is an example of an acute or transitory condition? The flu. The flu is something that you get and it's really bad for a certain duration of time, but it gets better. It's considered an acute and or transitory condition. So, examiner said it's not chronic. Okay, so what happened to Daryl is a common practice. Okay, Daryl, the examiner rewrote history. Okay, so what they did was they took your element two injuries in service and said, "Hey, look, that injury was just a boo boo. It wouldn't have caused a chronic disability." The only way that you can fix this is you have to go in and have a new medical doctor say, I reviewed the in service treatment and I disagree with the prior examiner. I think that that injury would have, in fact, caused a disability, a chronic disability. And not only that, that chronic disability is now what the veteran is currently manifested. It's whenever it first started. And the veteran's current manifestation originated from that in service injury. So that is about all I have for you guys right now. I will probably upload this tonight or tomorrow. I'd like to thank each and every single one of you for watching, the 178 of you that there were. I appreciate it more than you know. And you're all leaving now. I see. I see how you are. Everybody that donated, thank you so much. If you didn't donate, there's no worries. I'm still going to put out the content, even if you guys don't donate. That's not why I'm here. And I will try to address these comments. Please. No, that's not true, Felix. Please go through and write your comments that you have in the chat of this video whenever I upload it, okay? But anyway, that's about all I got for you right now, guys. I've got to take off. The family is like throwing mean eyes at me, and if I don't do more, but hey, look, I'm planning on doing this every single week. And you guys don't have to donate, but you can come in and listen and you can ask questions, okay? I'll try to get to them, but I'll get faster at this, I promise. But I need for each one of you guys, um, structure your questions if you can, and just I'll try to keep it to a theme. I mean, general Q&A is fine, but I want to talk about there's like Daryl's thing right here. This is a bigger problem than what you know. And what I said there is what you have to do in order to resolve it. So anyway, guys, I'll try to get to the questions as soon as I can. I appreciate you all. And that's about all I got for you right now. Raider out.